Alright guys, welcome back to F1 News. It now seems more likely than ever that Sergio Perez will not be in the Red Bull seat for 2024, with Helmut Marko suggesting that he's getting old, he's not as focused as he used to be, and if they could replace him with Lando Norris, they absolutely would. Perez even responds by saying that he is considering his alternatives if he doesn't feel like he's contributing enough in the Red Bull program as it stands. What are the chances Perez is gone for next season, despite him having a contract technically for the drive? Very much intrigued to hear your perspective in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. Now, some spicy drama to start out the day between the parent of Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc. So yesterday, there was this tweet that was spotted that was liked by Carlos Sainz's mother, and the tweet said, you know what Carlos has that he, that being Leclerc, will never have? The honour. Congratulations, Carlos. Today you have shut up a lot of mouths. So we saw it got very spicy, right, between those two drivers at the end of that Grand Prix. Arguably more feisty in the fighting than I expected, given they are the two Ferraris wanting to get a podium at Monza. I thought the team might tell them to, well, as they did, risk-free, no risk, right, Leclerc? But Leclerc was going for some ambitious and audacious attacking attempts. Sainz was, on occasion, I would say, over the line in his defence. And, you know, Rosberg was suggesting after the Grand Prix that there might be something more to that than meets the eye. It might be that Leclerc is going to get a new contract with Ferrari. It doesn't look like Sainz will right now, and I'm sure part of Sainz wants to kind of prove that, look, I'm still as good, if not better, than this guy, and I imagine that's why he defended as aggressively as he did, at least in parts. So Sainz's mother likes that tweet, effectively disrespecting Leclerc a little bit, obviously talking about honour, and then Leclerc likes this tweet, which of course is his 2019 victory in Monza, which, you know, Carlos Sainz has not done, also says honour. Now, I don't know if Leclerc knew that this caption of honour was, I think, referring to the comment, or at least the tweet that was liked by Carlos Sainz's mother, so I don't know if Leclerc is really trying to take a dig back here, or he just saw the picture and thought that was quite cool. But, you know, there's also been even Sainz Senior basically said, look, Ferrari should have given some team orders and told Leclerc to keep behind and keep the order as it were, rather than letting things go. So, yeah, I think things are interesting between the Ferrari pair. There's been quite a lot happening there lately, especially with the contractual stuff behind the scenes that's going on, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see a, you know, Leclerc kind of throw caution to the wind a little bit for the end of the season. I'll certainly be there to watch it if it happens. Not a great day for Carlos Sainz today, though, actually, because there's been a tyre test they were doing on, I believe, the new wet weather tyres you guys can see here driving around a little bit. So, but he got beached in the gravel at some point, so not exactly sure how that happened or if there's a video footage of it. Before we get into the Perez stuff, confirmation today from the FIA that all 10 teams were in compliance with the cost cap. Pretty boring, to be honest. Like, I was hoping there would be lots of drama about this in the couple of weeks before the Singapore Grand Prix, but apparently all the teams were in compliance, which is the three teams that were most under the spotlight were Aston Martin, Mercedes, and then Red Bull. But this time around, apparently no cost cap breaches. Some people won't believe it, but whatever. That's what the auditors find. So no drama on cost cap for this year. Next year, maybe a different story, but for now, there's nothing to be said on that. Now, let's talk about Red Bull. They have got a small upgrade coming in Singapore, where they will, if they win Singapore, they should really win everywhere. It's a circuit that Max hasn't won at yet, so he will be trying to do exactly that. But Sergio Perez, is he going to be in the car next season? He had a solid race in Monza, for sure. Again, not great qualifying. He had to work really hard to get through the Ferraris. He doesn't have that, like, killer instincts that Max has when it comes to making those moves, and you know, he eventually got through, and the Red Bulls are rocket ships. We had way more pace than the Ferraris towards the end of the Grand Prix, and if Max's issues that he had to manage by slowing down continued, Perez could have won the Grand Prix, and he wasn't too far behind Max. But still, in terms of pace, he isn't really that close, and yes, it was a 1-2 for Red Bull, well done, but that doesn't mean that they're now happy with Perez, because the guy right now is massively struggling to win a Grand Prix, and who wouldn't against Max? You know, there are some drivers who would do a better job, I think. Now, that's what Red Bull think, and maybe they also think that next season their car might not be as good with respect to the field, and they need a better second driver. So Helmut Marko has gone back and forth on this. Christian Horner has said, he's got a contract for 2024. He's going to be driving with us for 2024. Helmut Marko has said, yeah, there's a contractual guarantee, but there's no such thing as a guarantee in Formula One. And he's also said, yeah, you know, Perez not really doing that well. He's got to step it up. And then the next day he says, nah, Perez, what a guy, and we're going to stick with him. So you're getting mixed messages here. But Helmut Marko, he's at it again as of today, saying the following: Perez is not consistent. He's also not always focused, which is a really, you know, damning accusation actually towards Perez. He then discusses Lando Norris. So this is the full quote: Perez is not consistent. He is not always focused. Perez has a contract until 24, Norris until 25. Unfortunately, it's that long. So he pretty much says here, if they could sign Norris, like let's say Norris was going to be a free agent for next season, they would try and do it. They might still try and do it. And maybe McLaren think, you know what, Piastri is actually very close on pace right now in qualifying and race pace to Norris. Maybe they get Piastri and maybe they bring another driver in. You know, could they get Pato O'Ward from IndyCar? I don't know if he has the super license. They could get Alex Palou, but we know there's drama there with McLaren and Alex Palou, the new IndyCar champion again after what's happened. He was meant to drive for their McLaren IndyCar team next season and he doesn't want to, and there was all sorts of drama on that. So I don't know what McLaren would do if Red Bull were to successfully poach Norris, and I don't think they'll succeed, but they could well try. Marko also discusses that at Toro Rosso, we already had reached an agreement with Norris at the time until his manager realised there was an option for a McLaren contract. So, you know, saying that Norris, they wanted him in the Red Bull programme, I'm pretty sure Max would quite enjoy Norris as a teammate. And I also think that Max, I know that Verstappen has said over the last couple of weeks that he prefers the races where he wins by 30 seconds because it's less stressful, but I think that he enjoys the races more, and surely any driver enjoys the races more when it's a fight, you know? Like, Verstappen wins all the races nowadays and just comes on the radio like, haha, simply lovely, like, good result, you know? Like, he's not hyped, he's not excited, it doesn't seem to me at least, Verstappen. If he won a race that was a real battle with the teammate, down to the wire, fought with Lando Norris in the same car for 52 laps and came out on top, I'm sure Max would enjoy that more than what he's currently experiencing. I'm sure, yeah, he likes winning, sure, but winning in the manner that he is, I think even Max himself would probably prefer more of a challenge than he's currently getting, to be honest. So, but that's a question for Red Bull, whether they actually would want to do that. Now, as he says, in terms of Norris, in terms of youth and speed, he would suit us very well. Sergio, on the other hand, so it's like Lando would suit us very well. Sergio, on the other hand, as in he doesn't suit us very well, is already over 30 and is expecting his 4th child. So the age thing, you wouldn't really think matters that much compared to, you know, because Helmut Marko has said that if they, like, they're probably not going to get Hamilton, are they? Like, obviously you sign the new deal, but Helmut Marko wouldn't turn down Hamilton just because of his age, or wouldn't turn down Alonso just because of his age. But for Perez, he mentions that he's getting a bit old. 4 children on the way, or 4th child on the way, and so he also has other interests. So he's like, yeah, Sergio's not fully focused on Formula One, so you have to see what happens next, which almost sounds like a bit of, not precisely a threat, but it's like, well, he's got other interests. He's not fully focused on Formula One, so, you know, let's see what's happening next after that, which basically says we're going to get rid of him, right? I think there's nobody that believes that Perez is going to be around beyond his current contract. It's still very plausible that he's there next season, but it's equally plausible, as the article goes on to describe, that he's gone for next season, because this quote, especially for Marko, is like, you know, he's not that good anymore, he's not that consistent, his focus is elsewhere, so the inevitability is that he's gone. Question is how quick he's gone. But then you've got to come up with the answer as to what you actually do instead, because Lando Norris, it feels like a bit of a challenge to get Norris, right? He's in that McLaren. Yes, the McLaren next year, it's made some progress this season, right? He's got a couple of podiums. He's done well, but it's not quite a Red Bull. And if you ask Lando, do you want to drive in the sister Red Bull next year? He's probably going to say yes. I don't really think many drivers are going to turn that opportunity down. Some drivers, maybe Lando included, will be like, do I really want to go into Max's den and, you know, maybe get treated as number 2? Maybe not. But still, you know, if Lando was given the option, I think he would probably go for it. But he's got a contract with McLaren. And the other question is whether Red Bull would even want that. Would they want another, like, alpha driver, as some would describe it, in the team? Maybe not. Maybe they're happy with Verstappen winning literally every race that Red Bull win, which has pretty much been the case for the last couple of seasons. Even Verstappen commented on this recently and said that Lando signed a long-term deal with McLaren. That was probably not smart for him, as in, we would get him if he didn't have the contract. But contracts don't even mean that much in Formula 1, and they could maybe find a way around it. Now, if you don't think there's enough there to imply that Checo might be gone, we then get these comments from Checo Perez himself. With the season that we have had, the next races will aim to create a situation in which I feel better, where I can contribute. And if this place for 2024 is not there, we will have to look for other alternatives. My main goal is to be here to win more races, continue winning championships. I have a contract until next year, and next year we will see. This is really interesting, right? And it comes out at a very similar time to Helmut Marko is saying that we have no confidence in Perez for the long term. It's basically what he is saying. And now Perez is like, well, I don't feel like I can contribute here as much as I could elsewhere. Maybe, this is the idea about the car being developed for Max, whatever. Red Bull say it doesn't happen. They make the car as fast as it can be. Max can handle it. Perez can't. But it doesn't feel like Perez feels massively respected by Red Bull, because he's saying that he doesn't really feel like he's contributing much. And to be fair, Max is literally winning the constructors on his own right now. So Perez doesn't really need to contribute much. But it implies to me that Perez doesn't feel like the situation at Red Bull is respecting him and his abilities greatly. And if the situation is just that Max is going to win every race, and even, for example, in Zandvoort, where Perez had a 15-second lead, yes, he drove slowly compared to Max and squandered it, but even then, they undercut Perez with Max, right? They didn't even let them fight on track. They just used strategy to allow Max to overtake. In a similar way, you could say to Spain 2022, where Perez, they kept him behind Max, even though Max had the DRS issues, and then the strategy was always going to favour Max. So it's things like that, it makes sense why Red Bull do it. I'm not, disagreeing with their decisions on that one, but it doesn't create the best environment for your second driver, and I think Perez is really feeling the heat of that at the moment. So it's a little bit difficult to decipher what he means by this quote, right? Because does he mean next year in 2024, when he's driving for Red Bull, he will consider whether this is the best place? And if it's not, then he will go somewhere else. Or does he mean that as of right now, if next year this isn't the place to be, I'll look somewhere else? Because I don't think Perez really expects that they're going to extend his deal beyond the current deal. Like, I'm sure Perez knows that he's not going to be driving for Red Bull in 2025. I think that's pretty much guaranteed. The question is whether he's still going to be there next year or not. And both Perez himself and Helmut Marko are kind of saying, yeah, it ain't going to happen, buddy, or at least kind of indicating that direction. Now, they've also said recently, Red Bull, that Alex Albon is not going to be coming back to Red Bull. Like, they did that once. It's not worth it for them to try it again. So, he's not going to be going, at least based on what they've said. Norris seems to be the man they want, but they can't get him immediately, so they might wait around a little bit, or they might decide, you know what, let's go for Yuki Tsunoda, or let's go for Daniel Ricciardo. And that, as it stands, seems to be a pretty reasonable analysis. So, I've been kind of torn on this for some time, whether Perez is going to go or whether he's not. Maybe a month or so ago, when he was having his really bad spell, I was 60-40 convinced they would get rid of him, especially with rumours that they don't particularly like him there. I don't know. There's been some interesting kind of rumours coming out of the Red Bull camp about some of the comments that Perez has made and people behind the scenes not really taken too kindly to it. So, and also with Perez kind of saying, oh, well, the car once again was developed away from me. I'm not so comfortable with it now. It's comments like these that have maybe made people internally at Red Bull think, yeah, we can't wait to get rid of this guy type thing. And maybe that's going to happen soon. So a little while ago, I was, more confident than not that he was going to go. Over the last couple of weeks, I've probably been more confident than not that he's going to stay. But now I'm kind of back in this 50-50 range where I'm not really sure. But also, part of getting rid of Perez relies on an actual good alternative. And if Norris isn't realistic, it depends on Ricciardo doing really well at the end of the season, or them really believing in Tsunoda, that I'm not sure they do, or Liam Lawson having a really good showing, which is also possible as well, because he's got a couple more races to prove himself before Ricciardo's back in the car. So that's pretty much where we lie for today. Very much intrigued to your perspective in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.